everyone and welcome to my first ever YouTube video. So for today I thought I'd give you a tutorial on how to teach your horse to bow, since everyone has been requesting this on TikTok and Insta. It's quite a long process, but it's very rewarding in the end and it's definitely worth it. I taught Boris without any treats, so it is possible to teach them without treats, but it would be much quicker to teach them with treats, and I would definitely recommend that. The quickest results is definitely by doing it little and often. Even if it is only 5 minutes a day, it can be very mentally and physically challenging for them, so it's better to do it gradually and build it up. There are different methods, but the ones that I'm going to use today would definitely suit most horses, and most horses would understand, but it is about choosing the right method for your horse because there are other ones. But anyways, let's get on with today's video. This is how Boris does it now, and with some practice your horse should be able to do it like this too soon. He can actually do it voice commanded, and he did it in this video, but I'm currently working on him being able to do it from voice command while being ridden. Lots of people ask why bowing is so beneficial, and I always say that it's like a good stretch for them, but Boris took this quite literally. The first and definitely the most important step is making sure that your horse has a soft backup. Boris didn't actually have a very soft backup when I first taught him, and it definitely made it so much harder. So if your horse has a soft backup, it's going to make it so much quicker and easier to teach. To teach them to back up, just apply some pressure on the lead rope towards their chest, and as soon as they gradually back up and do any slight movement, release the pressure and reward them. Build this up gradually and your horse should be able to eventually do it really softly. This may be your entire first session. The next step is asking your horse to back up while holding their leg. Boris's backup was not very good at the start when I first started teaching him, which is why I had to apply so much force. Again, which is why it would be so much easier if your horse had a softer backup. It did take Boris weeks just to be able to shift some weight back, so don't give up if nothing is happening yet. It can be very confusing for them, especially learning a new trick that they don't know what you're asking. At this point, as soon as your horse does the tiniest shift of weight or anything, release and reward with a treat. Some horses can get their knee on the ground first try, but others take a bit longer. This was one of the first time that Boris actually got his knee on the ground. As you can tell by the change of weather and everything, it took him weeks to get to that point. Training with treats is almost so much quicker because your horse offers the trick or tries to do the trick just to get the treats, which is when you can start associating the trick with voice commands. Instead of associating the trick with a voice command, it may be quicker to teach your horse it with a cue. For example, Boris's cue is tapping the knee that he goes to bow on. This was the first time that Boris ever managed to bow with only voice commands. You can see how he tries to process what I'm asking. What you can see that I do at the start is I tap his leg to get him to lift up, and this will help the final step, which is when you phase out holding their leg. After a lot of repetition and practice in short amount of times, once your horse clearly knows what the cue or voice command is and what you're trying to ask them, this is when you can start phasing out you holding their leg. For Boris, I never thought he'd be able to do it without me holding his leg, but he picked up on it pretty fast, and it actually took him a lot quicker to understand what I was saying than I thought it would. This is him currently learning how to hold the bow. To start phasing out holding their leg, you need to start off using your command, like tapping their leg, to get them to lift up their leg, and reward this and do this in gradual stages like we have done with the rest of it. Once your horse fully understands what it means when you tap their leg and they have to lift it up, this is when you can start actually phasing out holding their leg. So you want to start off trying to put it slightly lower to the ground, but not significantly lower, as you need to do it in a gradual process. But if you do it like slightly lower and just keep doing it like that, so asking them to bow with their legs slightly lower towards the ground, if you keep doing it like that, then when it gets low enough, they can start figuring out how to lift it up themselves. It doesn't actually matter if they don't bow every single time, at least if they're going to do the action and they know what you're asking for, then that's still good and you still need to reward it. You can see here I'm constantly tapping and holding his leg close to the ground. You can tell how he's trying to process and figure out to lift up his leg to go into the bow. This was the first time I tried to get him to do it without holding his leg, and he doesn't fully bow, but he starts going into that motion, which is why I released. But once you have their leg low enough to the ground that they start figuring it out, when they start figuring out how to lift it up themselves, so if it's slightly scraping along the ground and they figure out how to lift it up and go into that bowing position, that's when you can start not holding the leg. Because Boris, it took him a bit longer and it took him a bit to understand. So it is quite a gradual process, and you might not be able to do this step all in one session. It might take one, or it might take multiple. Once your horse is ready and does start figuring it out, you can stand there, not actually holding their leg, but just stand there and pretending to hold their leg so that you can help them if they start struggling. And then eventually, with a lot of practice and repetition, your horse should be able to bow by themselves. This was the first time that Boris ever managed to bow on his own, and as you can tell, I'm repetitively using the command and voice command and then releasing once he does what I ask. Once your horse can bow by themselves, make sure you practice it just occasionally, just to make sure your horse still remembers it and still understands what you're saying. I'm currently teaching Boris how to hold the bow, and to do this, repetitively ask the command and use a release word to let them know when they can stand up, and then you can reward. I hope this helped and everyone understands all the steps. If not, leave a comment below and I'll answer it. But please subscribe for more videos, and thank you very much for watching. Crazy over you.